welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And we got through it, Leafs Nation. The regular season is done, and it's now the most wonderful time of year for hockey fans. Playoff time. Yay! And this is my 1993 rattle. Sil used to have a tambourine, but that got ruined during our many playoff runs. We did used to have many playoff runs, many successful playoff runs. But anyways, before we get into our playoff preview, we have an announcement to share with you.
That's right. So for the playoffs, we are going to be doing a weekly show. So be sure to follow us and download our show on your favorite app, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, or whatever podcatcher you choose. Or you can also listen on our Buzzsprout site, where you'll find our website link to and all our show notes as well. So we're going to be doing that every week, bringing you all our insights and thrills and for all the playoff games, which we hope will be a long run.
Yeah, because we're definitely excited to share our passion, excitement that we have for our team as we head into the playoffs. I'm actually right now having the background some playoff hockey on with the Islanders and the Pens. So yeah, we're just ready to watch playoff hockey all the time and report back to you, our listeners.
That's right. So we are going to get into our playoff preview with this show, but we do want to acknowledge a couple of team achievements that deserve being mentioned from the regular season that just ended. So first off, the Leafs finished in sixth place in the NHL's overall standings, which is pretty good. And it was like kind of borderline whether we were President's Trophy bound there for a bit. So I think overall we could say it was a pretty darn successful season. And as we all know, we finished in first place in the North Division. And it's also an interesting stat that we held that number one spot for the final 100 days of the schedule, which is really impressive. So that hopefully will carry over into the playoffs and we can hang on to leads in the same way.
Yeah, and we also have player achievements, of course. We have to talk about one Austin Matthews, who is the sole winner of the Rocket Richard Trophy. Woohoo! Mm-hmm. And Lance Hornby, actually, I love this, of the Toronto Sun, called him the Rocket Man in his article on the weekend, which I loved. Matthews is now one shy of 200 goals for his career. So next season, I guess, he'll I don't know how that works with the playoff goals. I guess he would.
No, it doesn't count.
It doesn't, right? No. Okay, so he'll have to wait until next season, opening season, when we're in the building at Scotiabank Arena. That's when it'll happen.
Hopefully.
Yes, yeah. And we also have to show some love to Austin Matthews' winger, one Mitch Marner. Marner set the franchise record, recording 67 points without scoring a single power play goal, which just proves how much our power play sucked, of course, right? But as we can't, that's truly unbelievable that he didn't score a single power play goal. But Mitch finished fourth in the NHL scoring, which is also something that we should celebrate and he should be proud of. Like, we're definitely proud
absolutely.
Of it. Yeah.
These two guys, so consistent also, year in, year out, they are bringing it. So all in all, it was a great season for our Leafs, but as we know, for Kyle Dubas and co, the real work starts now, and we are excited to get into talking about this Leafs Habs series that's coming up. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right, so let's get into this Leafs Habs series. It's been 42 years since we last met our rivals. It's kind of funny. They say that some people don't know that this is a rivalry, the Habs Leafs rivalry. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't know about it, but I don't know how you wouldn't know.
Because it's been such a long time, like you said, and if you have only been born within the last 20 years, which there's a lot of Leaf fans that I heard someone talking on the radio today, that there's a lot of fans of the team that are old enough to drink now and have never, ever seen them in the playoffs, or have never seen, and have for sure never seen this rivalry. So
Yeah. And I mean, obviously it's not the Habs' number one rival. I think that's the Bruins, but
Traditionally,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, there is a rivalry here between the Leafs and the Habs. And actually the last former Leaf captain, Daryl Sittler, I saw him on the news the other night. And he was in that last series from 1979 as the Leaf captain. And last night he just emphatically said, "It's our time." And I loved it when he said that. I was ready for it. So what are we looking for from our Leafs to start this series? For me, I'm hoping that they just take control of this series from the start. Like, don't put any doubt. Like, don't put any doubt in their minds. I mean, for the fans, for us, I mean, we're emotional. We'll get all nervous and everything, the usual thing. Like if they lose game one somehow or whatever, they'll think, "Oh my God, here we go again," that sort of thing. I just want them to just take control of the series, basically. Like our best players have to be our best players. And because like the Habs, I mean, we'll get into them a little bit later, but like they're nowhere near our level, right? And
100%.
I don't think, and I think like it's not really like that Tampa Columbus series where from a few years back or a couple of years ago, the year before, I guess it was the year before they won the cup, and like Columbus blew them out. Like Tampa had that amazing season and they rolled over. Columbus rolled over Tampa in that first round, but I don't like, we've just had so many years of experience now of not great experience in the first round. I think like this is our fifth year now that with this group going into the playoffs, and we've had enough experience. We just need to take that all in. And I think it's going to help having like the older guys like Thornton, Spezza, Simmons, Thornton and Simmons being the new guys, and Foligno. Obviously, it's really going to help to do this, to basically just get our mojo going and just take control of the series from the start.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for.
I agree with that. What I would like to see is that, because always it's that first 5 minutes, that they seem to at times be so tentative and hesitant and cautious. And I actually want them to, take the confidence that they've built this year. And enough of that. Like, first of all, with this whole format, the way it's been this year, it's not like, we haven't played them recently. We know what to expect. So what are you feeling them out for? Like, they don't have to do that. So I'm 100% on board with what you're saying there. I want them to take control of the game and just take it to them right from the get-go.
Yeah. Like, like if we can finish them off in 4 straight, personally, I don't think it's going to happen. I
don't think so either.
For me, I think it's going to be 5.
Yeah.
Maybe even 6. I would prefer 5. And that's the part where like they need to have that killer instinct. And like Daryl Sittler said, it's our time. We've been through this and we just need to just finish it off, because we want to go deep in the playoffs and we don't want to be wasting our time on these guys, basically, and wasting our energy. We have more energy needed for
bigger
future
fish
teams
to fry.
Yes. Yeah, exactly, sir. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking for. But who are you expecting?
For what I'm expecting for the series, I'm actually looking to the goaltending for kind of similar reasons that we're talking about, but on the back end, because what's happened in the past is that the goalies have been fine and have held us in, but there's always been kind of one backbreaker. Like, we can't expect that we're not going to get scored on. That's going to happen. But what I want to see is our goaltenders, whoever it is that ends up being in the net on a given night, because likely over the course of a long playoffs, we're going to see, both guys, Campbell and Anderson. But what I want to see is them kind of rising to the occasion and holding us in when it counts. So like, the team has to pick up the goalie at times, but the goalie also has to pick up the team, because if there's a setback mentally where something starts to go wrong, I want whoever is our backstop to really show up in those moments. And that's something we haven't seen in a long time. And that's something I think that for us all to not need, to have a bottle of antacids beside us every time we watch the game, I think that we want to see them show up. The flip side is I'm curious to see what we're going to see on in the Habs net. Like, who are we going to see there as far as, are we going to be seeing vintage Carey Price, or, is he going to be struggling? I'm not very, very concerned there, because if there's one thing we know, Auston Matthews has no trouble scoring on Carey Price, even when he's, playing pretty well.
We'll talk about him.
Interesting to see.
Yeah, we'll talk about Price a little bit again in our next segment here. But yeah, I think definitely the goaltending. I mean, last year in the bubble versus Columbus, we shot 2%. So right. I mean, that's never gonna happen. Like rarely does that happen. Like they even in most of the reporters were saying would that happen for a team, but they stood on their head. The Columbus goalies, I think both of them got in, and but I mean, in those cases, we need, or in those instances, we need our goalie to be just as good or better, and like the way you're saying, like not give up the next goal and just stay confident. And I think both Anderson and Campbell, I mean, they announced today, on Sunday, Keefe said that Campbell was going to start game 1, which makes total sense. So we ride with him, and we'll see how far he gets, and knock on wood that everything. The only thing I'm concerned about with Campbell really is the injuries. Right. And that's the history for him, is the injuries. So hopefully, if he'll be good.
If he takes a dive the wrong way and pulls something.
or whatever it is. But hopefully that'll all be fine. And they're both going to get in either way. Like Anderson's going to play at some point. And some people were talking about, because there is back-to-back. I forget what dates it is. I think it's games 3 and 4. But
yes, it is.
Yeah. And so they were saying, like, would you put in Anderson? Let's just say if you were up 2-1 and it was the back-to-back, would you put Anderson in that back-to-back sort of thing? But I don't know. It depends. To me, it depends on how Campbell is playing. If he's playing well and he feels good too, like Keefe would obviously be communicating with him, then you just put Campbell back in net for that 4th game. Why would you put Anderson in because it was a back-to-back? Like, I don't know. I just think you go with whoever's feeling good, and if it's going on. But so that's definitely another thing to look for in the series. But who are you expecting to be at another level in this series, taking it to another level?
Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about this person throughout the season, and for that reason, I am expecting Auston Matthews to take it to another level. Over the last 4 seasons, just looking at his stats in the playoffs, he's been fine. So we had 5 games last year against Columbus in that bubble series. He had 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists. He was +1. He had 1 power play goal and 2 game-winning goals, and one of those was an overtime winner. And he's pretty much consistent at the 50% mark on the faceoffs. But really, when I look back at the previous years, also, he's kind of around this level. And what I want to see is him dominate. I want to see him, show that he is the really, really a deserving trophy winner. And he's going to have to maybe take a couple games on his back and just show up and pull his other teammates along. Like we have been fortunate enough in our lifetime to see several Leaf players, some of them captains, some of them not, do this. Like, I'll always remember in that 93 run, game 6, I think it was, against LA, where Wendell, like, we weren't winning that game, and Wendell Clark scored a hat trick and basically pulled it out, himself. So
yeah, we were
those
at PM
are the things
Toronto
that I want to
that
see
game.
from this guy. What's that?
We were at PM Toronto watching that
I know,
game.
watching it on at that time it was considered a big screen, but now people have a size screen like that. Everyone has that in their family room now, but at that time it was a huge screen.
Well, when I think of it, that the quality of that picture was so bad, but whatever.
Totally.
Like, I mean, yeah, but that was for the time it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, when he scored that hat trick,
I mean, that's the thing is, like, I think a lot of people that are in, the younger age group of Leaf fans now wonder why is Wendell Clark so loved? Why is it just because he was a fighter? No, it's because of games like this. And
yeah.
That's what I kind of want to see from our young guys that are super talented. I want them to dig in when it counts and show up like that. And I think he has everything that he needs to be able to do that.
Yeah. And even when you move further into the 2000 decade, like, remember Gary Roberts and Alan McCauley when Mats
100%.
went out.
Yeah.
When Mats went out, they took over that series. And I don't know if it was Ottawa. Was it Ottawa? I think it was. Anyways, but they took over. Or no, actually, I think it was 2 series because Mats was out for quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I think one of them was Buffalo. Because Buffalo Mats came back during that series.
That's right. Yeah, and that's basically when everything went downhill for whatever reason. But anyhow, so those are 2 players again. Well, Gary Roberts was a leader. Alan McCauley was just an average player on the team, but he basically followed Gary Roberts along, and he pulled them along, basically, right? So yeah. But with Matthews, I think some interesting words from Daryl Sittler again that I heard from him last night. He said that Matthews knows it's about the playoffs, and he doesn't want to be thought of as a regular season player. I thought that was quite interesting that he would, the way he mentioned that, because yes, it's great. It's great to score during the regular season, win the Rocket Richard Trophy. Like, that's fabulous, but it's not about that. It's about now coming up. So I thought that was really interesting of the former Leaf captain to say that. So yeah, definitely Matthews needs to lead this team, take it to another level. And
so who do you think is gonna take it up a notch?
For me, it's William Nylander. And the reason why, I don't know, he always is the big talker, Willie, there at the beginning of the season, and he talks about the playoffs too, and he has the potential in him too to be that guy, like to score those goals and just to have the puck on his stick. But I actually, when I was reading up on him, like last year in the bubble, he didn't play bad versus Columbus. He had 4 points. He was tied for second most on the team, and he had. But there was quite a few times where you didn't notice him in the game.
No, and I think that showed up in his plus minus because he was also -3. So that's not great, obviously. I mean, plus minus is not like a super, super important stat. But I mean, in a short series like that, it made a difference, right?
Yeah. And for him, I mean, the last month of the season now, like, I mean, he was late to that meeting. Right. Which I think that might have been the Rogers issue. Everyone's saying that there was that one day with Rogers had a outage or something, and like he didn't get the note, but whatever. There was note to the meeting. He didn't get the text on his phone. But I don't know. He was late to this meeting, and then he also missed the week because of that COVID scare sort of thing, right? So, which was, I mean, he was really good about that. He right away told the team, but as like Keith is saying, it's about being accountable and the growth and his growth, because he has it in him again. And I think really having Foligno on that line is going to really help. Is going to really help him. Tavares is like, it should be enough with just John Tavares, right? But I mean, because John Tavares just does everything right, the right way. He's a pro. But having Foligno there, I think, with that extra bit of nastiness that he brings, and I think that'll help Willie stay focused and stay in the game. Yeah, that energy from Foligno it's a different type of energy that he brings.
Well, and I have no doubt that it's not just going to be his energy. I'm pretty sure that Foligno will also be verbally talking to him and pulling him up when he's not really pulling his weight on their line, which is exactly the thing that, we have Simmons here for and Thornton for. I mean, they're here for one thing and one thing only, and they're not going to let a bunch of punk kids derail that dream for them, I don't think. So they're probably going to do what they need to as far as that veteran group to keep these guys loose when they need to be loose, but also focused when they need to be focused. So that's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Yeah. So we've been waiting 42 years for this Leafs Habs matchup in the playoffs. It was 1979, and the Habs team back then obviously was loaded with talent. They were basically right towards the end of winning their dynasty for 4 Stanley Cups or 5 Stanley Cups, whatever it was. And obviously they don't have that type of talent now, but let's just talk a little bit about the Habs now, a little bit as to what we need to be looking out for. So first of all, I guess, I mean, they've got a lot of injuries lately to their key guys like Gallagher and Weber, basically.
Right.
And they're both supposed to be back, although Weber wasn't at the practice on Saturday, but Gallagher was practicing, and again, he had a thumb injury, I guess, is Gallagher, and Weber did something to his hand. But I don't know, Gallagher is basically always the shit disturber in their lineup, right? And he likes
especially
to talk
in front of the net.
Yeah, he likes to talk the talk or whatever, and Weber obviously has that big shot from the point, but I don't. I'm not actually so worried about Weber. Maybe a little bit Gallagher, but I think they're both banged up, so I don't think they're going to have as much impact in the series. I don't know. Are you thinking the same about them too? Or
I'm not super concerned about that. I think that there's, the people that I'm concerned about more are a guy like Toffoli. I'm a little bit concerned about the Cole Caulfield guy, because he seems to show up in big moments. That kind of seems to be his thing. But overall, I don't really see that there's anything in their lineup that even really comes close to what we have. So I do feel that, we should be able to, I'm not saying that they're not going to show up, and I'm not going to say we're going to walk over them, because they have a lot of pride. They're a very physical team. They lead the league in hits. But to me, they can, hit us all they want. The thing that I'm worried about with that is potentially, injuring one of our players, particularly our goaltenders, because they do like to crash the net. Gallagher does that. Corey Perry is so nasty and chippy that way. Yeah. So I wouldn't, rule out them doing that.
I think Campbell gave him a little whack one of their final games, right? Because Perry was right in front of his crease.
They would have a history too, because they saw each other a lot in LA and Anaheim, right? So he knows what he brings that way.
Yeah.
So
and then so they had in their practice, the Habs had the line of Perry, Stahl, and Anderson, Josh Anderson. With that line, I think it's just more about they're gonna try and be pests and try and get us to take dumb penalties, basically, by trying to be in our face and that. So we just need to just take any stupid stick work or chirping or whatever. Like you just need to ignore them and we'll be fine.
Well, and as far as the specialty teams go, if they're going to have extra power plays, how worried are we about that?
Yeah. And I mean, no, they don't. Their power play was 19th in the league. And we know about our power play.
We do have the power play woes going on, but at least we can say that we were first in the league for quite a while. So I'm pretty sure that they never had never ever could say that. So
I have a thought, actually. I'm thinking to myself, maybe we were just being crap on the power play because we're just saving it for the playoffs.
Oh, it's the hustle?
Right, we're going to burst out and just,
That's a nice thought. And I hope you're right. And it's a really good Leaf dream. We'll see if that happens, if they really are pull the hustle on that whole division that way.
And as for going back to the goaltending with Carey Price and Jake Allen, personally, I think Price will probably get in, but I don't know. He's going to be coming back from the concussion.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he can be coming back from that to automatically be vintage Carey Price. I don't know.
No,
everybody keeps talking about that. I just don't see it. I mean, he's going to be Carey Price. He's a good goalie, just like Frederik Andersen is a good goalie. They're both good goalies, right? But to be off the certain amount of time and just expect him to be like phenomenal, like I just don't see that happening. So no, I'm not that.
And I mean, Jake Allen too, like, I guess we need to also remember that, he was part of the Blues organization when they won their cup. He wasn't in the net that much because Binnington was, but he still was on that team. So there's something to be said for being in a system and around a team when they're going on a run like that. So
true.
I guess that's something just to keep in mind that way.
Yeah. One thing I read in the Toronto Star, they had an article with, they were talking about like Montreal and just going into this series. And there was a quote from Habs legend, Serge Savard. He was he's
always good for a quote, Serge Savard.
Oh my God. He's speaking about the Habs not having enough Quebecois players.
Oh yes. I heard that.
Did you hear? And he told Marc Bergevin that people will let you win in English, but they won't let you lose in English. So the fact that I thought to myself, how are these people now? They're more concerned about, like, they're going into a playoff series now, and they're more concerned about how many Quebecois players they have. Like, really? I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's okay. And I still can't believe that Marc Bergevin has actually kept his job this long, but that's okay.
Well, see if that still happens if they don't make it through.
Yeah.
But anyways, one thing we know for sure is when it comes to Montreal, that market is just as crazy as Leafs Nation, if not more so. And they obviously took it to another level. But anyway, so we are definitely looking forward to this matchup. I can't wait for it to start. In the meantime, though, we do get hockey every night, and so we are obviously watching other games as well. So let's move on to who we're looking forward to watching in some of the other playoff series.
Yeah. So for me, I'm definitely looking forward to the Florida series. This Florida Panthers and Tampa. This is going to be interesting. There is some nastiness in this series, and the Florida actually won the season. Like the regular season series, they were 5-2-1 versus Tampa. So they've got a pretty good thing going there. They've never played in the playoffs. So this is kind of interesting, like the two Florida teams. And I don't know. And I'm really pulling for Florida to win because I just think it's ridiculous how all of a sudden Nikita Kucherov and Steven Stamkos are going to be like 100% going to play in the playoffs after taking off. Well, Kucherov was off the whole season.
Yeah.
So he's basically biding his time, waiting to he probably could have played last month, but he didn't.
Yeah, but
because of the whole salary cap thing.
I know, but the thing is though, like our team does the same thing, right? So people could say that about Freddie Anderson, that he's been out the whole season and now he's just going to come back. And I mean, he's not getting the net to start with, but
they could. But I mean, Kucherov is on a different level. I mean, Kucherov was the MVP, right?
I think this is a year that you could do that because really there's not a lot of fans in the building, if at all. So, you're not, gypping people who are paying good money to come and see the games as much as you normally would in a regular season. So maybe that's why they feel like they could get away with that.
Yeah. But I'm just looking forward to, I mean, the first round is always the best, right? So I'm just looking forward to that series in particular. I watched a bit of the other series last night and which one are you looking forward to?
Well, speaking of that other series that you watched last night, I'm actually looking forward to the Washington Capitals Bruins series. A big part of it for me is I want to see those stupid Bruins go down. And I was so happy that they lost yesterday. And I like that whole storyline with Chara being on the other side of the ice. And
there was
playing
actually
against his old team. So I don't know. I sort of like some of the storylines there, with Ovi
they
and
actually
everything.
Today on Twitter, apparently the Bruins fans are saying that Chara's playing dirty.
Well, isn't it interesting?
I love it.
You can dish it out, but you can't take it, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
Anyway, and to me too, like I was watching, and it's something that we don't have is a guy with a big booming shot like that, because I was so amazed at how much the Capitals use the shot from the point to basically to set things up. There's so many shots from the point, mostly from Chara's side. When you've got that big shot, that's something that like I just really noticed watching that game, because we haven't watched a lot of other out of market games this year, other out of market teams as much, with so much focus on the North Division. It really, really was very obvious to me that we don't do that much at all. And I think that is something that if we could add somehow, that's something that could make our power play just a little more effective, because we have that threat. But right now we don't have anybody with that threat, which is part of the reason why I think Sandin is getting in, because he doesn't have a big booming shot, but he's such a smart player that he kind of gets shots through, and he's very mobile along that blue line. So that actually does help.
When Sandin sees the opportunity, he will shoot, and he has an effective shot. So the other thing with the Boston-Washington, our favorite person there, Mr. Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
Marchand.
I loved watching him get pushed around and crushed yesterday. It was so nice.
He said because apparently during they split the regular season series. They were even. They each won 4 games, I guess. They played each other 8 times, but apparently Marchand said during those games, like Chara, they have like code names for their plays, I guess, the Bruins. Go on the ice. So Chara obviously knows all these code names, and he would go over to the Caps bench and the coach and say, this is what they're going to be doing now. Like, this is code whatever sort of thing. Right. So he's like, he knows everything. And I'm thinking to myself, well, obviously you would think their coach, that Bruce Cassidy or whatever, like he would change the code names. Right. I don't know. I just thought to myself, whatever, you're a loser anyways. I can't stand you. So hopefully, like you said, he'll be that they'll just knock him out and finish them off. Yeah.
So anyway, one can only hope, right?
Yeah. I mean, the other ones too are going to be fun. Like whatever, I'm cheering for Naz. Yeah. I don't know if you are, but I think you are.
Of course. Yeah. I don't know why you have it in your head that I hate the guy. I don't hate the guy at all. I love Naz. And I'm always
Anyways.
looking forward to them doing well. And in fact, I have a Colorado Leaf matchup in the final. So,
oh, okay. All right. And then we can't vote. Obviously, we won't be voting for Naz then, but that's okay.
No. Anyway, so obviously the best thing about all these other series is that there's hockey every night. So we're going to be enjoying that. So we know these other series are starting, and it's going to be a couple games that before the North Division catches up. But I kind of like how they're spreading out the start days. Like normally it's everybody kind of starts around the same time, but they're sort of spreading it out to kind of blend it, I guess, to when the North starts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyways, bottom line, that means that there's lots of hockey to watch, and the first round is always the best because every night is hockey night.
Yeah, and that's why we say it's the most wonderful time of the year for hockey fans. And we definitely have high hopes for our Leafs. They got to do it this year. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to a few listeners we have in Germany, in Frankfurt and Cologne. Leafs Nation is everywhere, and we'd love to hear from you guys too.
Yes. Welcome, and thanks for listening. And also we have a shout out to one of our new Facebook top fans, Michelle Ebert. And we want to thank all of our followers on social media also. So if you have any thoughts on what we talked about on the show, please feel free to DM us on social media. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Our handle is at LTL1917. And you can also always email us at ladiestalkinleafs@gmail.com.
Yeah, and another way to connect with us is on our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. It's ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us there and buy us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you, and that's how we can offer extra shows like we're going to be doing our weekly shows now in the playoffs. So if you can, please give us a donation. Find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages. As always, we want to thank our healthcare workers and everything that they do. Stay safe and well, everybody. Enjoy the start of the playoffs.
Go Leafs, go!